Name's Mike Sullivan. Welcome to my YouTube channel once again. You're sitting here with two brilliant people. I'm a former revenue officer. Herb's a former appellate agent, revenue agent with IRS, CPA. Together, we worked at IRS, I don't know, half our life. That's why we're gray. We worked out there too long. So anyway, we specialize in tax resolution. I specialize in the collection division. Herb specializes in IRS audits and penalty abatements. And I don't know, we've probably worked 10,000, 20,000 cases together. Who knows? Anyway, today I want to talk to you about how you get a penalty abated from the IRS. Now, we don't tell you all the tricks because that would steal our thunder, but we're going to give you enough information so you know. So, Herb was one of those people that if you sent in a penalty abatement letter and got denied, and you says, hey, that wasn't right, I want to appeal that, it would go to Herb. So Herb would be one of the people who would be looking at your abatement. Now, most of the penalty abatements are pure garbage. You write a one-page letter and say, hey, that doesn't work. Herb, let me ask you something. What are the three keys that people need to know if they have a penalty abatement? I know one of them, the timeline, has to add up. Many people don't even write the timeline, but you must see a lot of garbage. How do they make their letter and their abatement separate themselves from somebody else?
Well, every case, of course, is different, but the first thing is you have to figure out what the penalty is, how many years are involved, and then you have to contact the IRS, generally by letter, and you have to be able to write a really good protest letter to the IRS. If you just say the penalty's not fair, it should be removed, the IRS is not going to do anything. You have to write enough content, detail in the letter to give the IRS time and information so they will hopefully remove the penalty.
Are
The
some
IRS usually
letters too
doesn't.
short or too long? What does the average letter page-wise need to look like, would you say?
It needs to be at least a couple of pages long, and you need to include all the information, what happened. You can cite tax court cases, appeals court cases.
Now that raises a point. The average person out there is not going to know about tax court cases. When a case goes to appeals, your decisions are driven by tax court cases. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And most people do not know how to cite court cases, and most people that do want to request a penalty abatement do not get it removed because they don't know what they're doing.
So let me ask you this. The average person out there who's not going to know how to look, but they have a good case. Let's say they had a failure to file penalty that they need to abate it, and they had to put a file together. Is the documentation and the timeline really important? So are you looking basically at how they're going to tell the truth and the items they need to support their claim? Is it possible to get one through without citing a tax court case?
Possible but unlikely. But with penalty abatements, even IRS audits, you have to know what you're doing. If you do, you'll do okay. If you don't, like most people, you won't get anywhere. You will waste a lot of your time and nothing will be accomplished.
Where would they find, let's say they had a failure to file penalty or a failure to pay penalty, those are the most common reasons, and they needed to look up, is there a simple place for them to look up and read about a tax court case?
You could probably find them on the internet somewhere. Generally speaking, I like using the tax court providers like Commerce Clearinghouse, CCH. There are other sources, but you have to pay for them.
Yeah, I think one thing you have to understand if you want a penalty abatement is the appeals division isn't emotional. It's not whether they feel you were right or wrong. They have to know from there that case, your case goes to tax court. Your case is just not going to say, well, yes, no, maybe, yes, no. I feel bad for you. You have to actually cite a case that a person like Herb would say, you're right. If I take that case to court, we may win the case. So your job, would you say 80 to 90% of your function there is to see if that penalty can get abated by the site of a tax court? Can you help the person who does not have a tax court? Can you help them with tax court cases if they referred you work? So you have a list of the cases that meet everything? Is that how you get your work done?
Quite often, yeah, that's usually what I try to do. Look at court cases. There are other things too, other factors to look at that you try to, how may I say, beef up my protest letter to help you try to get the penalty removed.
Yeah, and I just want to tell you the reason I'm making this, it's not so much just hey, let's hire us or that. If you have a small case, you can give these a shot, but you have to remember when you're in appeals, you must show a court case, one, two, or three, and put a well-written letter together with documentation to have a chance. Herb, let me ask you today, as far as the length, if they did submit an appellate case right now, how long and does it cost any money to send the case to appeals?
Uh, Generally, to get a case to appeals, well, it depends in which stage it's at within the IRS. But the IRS now is extremely slow, and even if you want to talk to them over the phone, you could be on the phone for 2, 3 hours or more, or not even get through. That's the bad part, and this is going to happen probably for another year or two. That's what my guess is. But to get a case to appeals probably can take 6 months to a year.
And how do they get that case to appeals? Do they simply write a letter, and who does the case actually get submitted to? Is there an address they do that?
Yeah, every case is different. It just depends where the case is within the IRS. But generally speaking, you want to try to get a case to appeals. But of course, if you could settle it at a lower level,
But how
that
do
would
they
be good
get
too.
that case to appeals? Is there an address that they say? How
Well,
do
you
they
would you
look
would
up?
request the IRS to send it to your local appeals office.
Okay, so it does go to the local. Now, can they
Yeah.
look online to find out their local appeals? And
Yes.
should they send that certified?
Yes, I would never send anything just regular mail because the mail is very slow. But yeah, to get a case to appeals does take a long time.
Yeah, so you may wait a year right now, but the key is a quality letter. Once again, cite some tax court cases, put a nice, thorough letter together. Make sure you have documentation and just prepared to wait. And remember, if your case has been assessed, IRS is going to go out and they can fully collect that tax. So, anyway, if you have any questions, please send them to me. You can make a comment. We thrive on subscriptions here. When you subscribe, it kind of lets YouTube know, yeah, we're kind of important. If you could subscribe and give us a like and maybe leave us a comment, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.